years of SARA, the Safety and Reliability Association. My guest is Ron Moore. Ron and I have known each other now. It's almost we're over 5 years, so I would say a decade. It's been a long time.
That's
Uh,
fair enough.
yeah, and I'm
Feels
just
like a decade.
it, I want to give the audience a little bit of where I really got to know you
Yeah.
was I was attending a conference at the Reliability Web Terry O'Hanlon's maintenance conference, and you had a speaking spot before lunch, and you got up, and every other speaker before you got up with a bunch of PowerPoints and had a like a thing. You got up in the stage, you had no PowerPoints, and you walked back and forth for 2 hours and spoke. And we 1,500 people sitting in the audience were in a rapt attention. Then we went to lunch, and then they gave you a speaking spot to finish after lunch. There were more people after lunch than before lunch, which is totally unheard of because most of the time you lose half the people. But I think people started like I did. I said, "You have got to come and hear this guy." And you went on, and I think your total thing was like 3.5 hours, and not one PowerPoint, but very memorable. But Ron, thank you for joining us today, but also thank you for your support for mysara.org. It is a 501c6 not for profit. Let me ask you a question. I've just positioned you where you are on the platform, an expert. You consult and do amazing things with people to help them manage from maintenance to reliability and all of the things that you do. You're one of the best at it. I want you to go back to where it all began. When you first got involved in maintenance and reliability and whatever role that was, what was it? That's a young man. What were you doing when you were introduced to the industry?
Depends on how far you want to go back.
Not the cradle, but
Okay. Well, I grew up in eastern Kentucky, not exactly a hot spot for intellectual prowess. But the good news, I had wonderful teachers and had the good fortune to attend West Point. And of course, there you're introduced not just to the academics, but the issues associated with leadership, alignment, collaboration, achieving a mission, that sort of thing. And for me, that was quite a transformative experience. I have wonderful memories of having had the experience. I would not ever want to repeat it. So, because it was really, really challenging. In
yeah.
any event, my first job out of school was working on nuclear submarines.
Oh
That
wow.
sounds kind of funny from a guy out of the Army, and there's a long story there I won't go into. But working on nuke subs. And what that taught me was the need for attention to detail and the need for, and we didn't call it this at the time, but it was really reliability,
Yeah.
precision in the way you operate, the way you maintain, the way you look after a submarine. Because, think about it, reliability is really critical on a submarine. You can't be 1,000 feet below the surface in a nuclear sub and go, oh, dang, we forgot that. It just doesn't work well that way. And then I evolved. Eventually, I became president of a company called CSI. Our strong suit was vibration monitoring and instruments and software. That experience also was formative in so many circumstances. Leadership of leading a company and trying to get people aligned and focused and energetically coming to work every day. But the other was beginning to understand how manufacturing facilities worked. Not just the importance of the equipment, but the importance of the people and how they work together and how you plan your production process, how you integrate that, how you fold that into the equipment reliability and so on. And so that was quite eye-opening for me. And then out of that, when I left there, I started my own little consulting business and got more deeply involved in all these operations. Wrote a book called Making Common Sense, Common Practice. And really, most of these plants, they know what common sense is, but very often the system itself, what gets in the way of them applying common sense to what they know to do. And so I've spent the past 30 years working to try to help folks have better leadership, executive sponsorship, have a better partnership relationship across functional boundaries, more collaboration, and particularly more shop floor engagement. I have this phrase I use: if you want to understand the problems with the work, talk to the workers.
Yeah.
I mean, such an obvious thing that a lot of people don't do, and it's just really important, that you do that so you get a better grasp of what's actually happening on the floor. So that's probably enough of my background and what I do.
And if people want to know more, then we're going to do some things and interviews and ask the experts. But you said I wrote a book. You've written what? Is it
6.
six books, right? But
Yep.
in the last one, I know Martin Robinson, one of our co-founders, just swears by. He loves it, and I think he hands out copies of the book. But he's one of your. What was the last book you just did?
A common sense approach to defect elimination. Yeah, it's just a real simple, it's a booklet really. It's about 100 pages with lots of case studies on just getting the workforce involved in solving basic problems, really fundamental problems, but doing it in a structured manner so that it sticks. So that you embedded it within the organization.
If people want to get your book, do they go to reliabilityweb.com or do they go to you?
Well, you can go to Amazon.com or you can go to MRO-zone.com. That's part of reliabilityweb.com.
All right, let's move to Sarah. When you first heard about it, and in fact, you were one of the people that kind of convinced Martin Robinson, one of the co-founders, and then we convinced a couple of other people. Hey, we should do this. It's kind of like for me, I'm retired, been retired twice now, and still working.
Yeah, me
Um,
too.
yeah, I know. So we keep doing it. And that's because we're lifelong learners. You get interested in something. When we asked you, we came along and you've been kind of prodding us to do something. And yes, there will be a book. It's going to come. We're now talking about it, but it'll be co-authored by a number of people. So we'll have a group of people contributing to it. Why this organization? Why did you say, hey, yes, I will be one of your senior advisors? And we put you on as About Us because it makes us, Sarah, look credibility when we have people like you on there, like we have Klaus Bosch from the University of Tennessee Reliability Maintenance Center. We have a lot of board members who are running the reliability programs at major companies, including data centers. At this point, why did you get involved with SARA? What was the need that you saw?
Well, over the course of working with quite literally, hundreds of industrial operations, mostly manufacturing, but, the odd one that wasn't in manufacturing per se, like power generation, that sort of thing. And working with them, I came across lots of data which suggested that safety and reliability are pretty highly correlated. It's, just a caution, reliability and safety being correlated isn't cause and effect necessarily, but you can infer that from the data based on your knowledge of the system. And what you find is, for example, as OEE, as plant performance improves, injury rate goes down. And what you find is, as that planning and scheduling and schedule compliance improve, injury rate goes down. And what you find is that as reactive maintenance goes down because you're doing a better job stopping the defects that create the failures, and you're better at planning and scheduling those, you find that injury rate goes down. And not only that, but unit cost of production goes down and environmental incidents go down. So got all this data that says, well, there's a really strong relationship between safety and reliability. That is, the more reliable you are, the safer you are. Now, with that said, though, a couple of cautions. The first one is this: you can get better safety by doing basic safety practices. Things like lockout, tagout, vessel entry, PPE, just set the tone for people to do the things that will keep them safe. The data I've got, though, suggests that that will take you so far. And then beyond that point, you'll reach a point where the system is what Deming would call a safe, stable state. It's stable. It's not going to change until you change the system, and you can't change that system without changing the underlying practices that improve what I call process reliability. It's not just equipment reliability. It's about how all the functional elements interact and support each other to achieve process reliability and so-called operational excellence. And when you have that, that's when you have lowest cost, highest production, safest, environmentally sound operation. And it's pretty rare to see that happen in a single operation because you have all that complexity, all those variables interacting with each other, sometimes to the detriment of the other functional elements, which results in the system being a lower functioning system. And so it's really important that all these functional elements be aligned to a common strategy with some common goals that are reinforced by the executive and that are deployed by the shop floor. And that's where you get that holistic system level approach to improving things, and everything improves. But like I said, it's really rare to see that.
My
So
next
I'm
question.
here to try to promote achieving excellence and better safety, because most executives say, well, safety is our top priority. Well, maybe actually making money is their top priority.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So, and sometimes they forget about how you make money. You get the system working really well as opposed to just doing simple things like cost cutting. I've got a lot of data that says cost cutting works for a couple of years and then it doesn't work so well because you haven't changed the fundamental way the system operates. And until you do that, you're not likely to see a whole lot of sustainable improvement. So,
You
okay,
know,
I'll pause there.
no, because you've just given the reasons why somebody ought to be part of it. But I'll just say this: the reason we picked safety and reliability was that presentation when you walked across the stage, and every time you came up with something, you said, "I've got the data." I remember that. I remember that. I've got the data, and that is that correlative data between safety and reliability. As the reliability metrics go up, all of the other things, especially safety, go down. Incidents go down, so safety goes up. So the correlation between reliability and safety, and you just added cost there, but you've got the data, and that's one of the reasons we asked you to do this. Last question, because you just gave all of the answers for why somebody ought to become part of SARA.
Yeah.
This question is for those people who are really the sponsors. We are a volunteer organization. The board is made up of pretty important people in the world of reliability, but the people that are going to support this, and we don't ever want to have a vendor approach. We have approved providers. They are companies that are willing to educate the market first. And if then from that education, they are able to talk about their products and services, that's secondary, but educate the market first. And a growing number of people have joined that. Why is that important about educating the marketplace first? Why should approved providers want to become part of this?
I'll speak personally again. When I was president of CSI, I didn't try to sell products. I tried to educate the market on the value of condition monitoring and why it was so important to have a good, strong condition monitoring program that would help you improve your production, reduce your costs, improve your safety, and so on. And I figured if I could convince them of that, then the market would create itself. Because doesn't everybody want higher production, lower costs, better safety? I mean, everybody wants that. And so if you can convince folks that that's really important and that you have some skills and capability for supporting that, then kind of follows in behind you. So, my objective was to expand the market, and I figured, other people are pretty good at selling the products. I didn't ever sell anything except a vision for what a good operation looked like. And so I think that should be the objective of our providers. What'd you call them?
Approved providers.
Approved providers, yeah. It would be to demonstrate the value in what we do and then let the market take care of itself. And then you can go in and show how you can support that with what you do. Based on my personal experience, I mean, that's what I did, and we were quite successful with that strategy.
To that point, Ron, when you say we've got the data, we also have the data that, and this comes from an engineering group that I'm part of out of Georgia Tech, that specifiers for technical products. That's a broad area, right? But technical products, specifiers, the people who actually are going to buy from you, they spend more than 70% of their time researching the problem and the solution long before they talk to anybody in sales. So that indicates people want to know about it before they start being pitched on a sales. They want to know, here's the problem. And there are solutions. For instance, there may be Windows solutions for opening, instead of opening a cabinet, a medium high voltage cabinet. There's a window you can put in, and there's multiple companies that do it. One of our co-chairs is a company that provides that, but they always educate. You make a decision after you educate, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give people an ask the expert kind of a thing. Well, Ron, this has been perfect. It's exactly what we needed. Thank you so much, and I will see you in Punta Cana in
Oh yeah, yeah.
a
I've
month,
still
right?
got to make my reservations.
Yeah, make your reservation. All you got to do is get there. We got everything else covered and planned. And remember,
Okay.
if you bring your lovely wife and she's willing to come to Punta Cana, all of our wives are going to be there so that we can make this a family affair. It is actually the Iris Sales and Distributor Conference, but there's a lot of education that goes on, and I know you're keynote speaking there. Ron, thank you so much. How do people get in touch with you if they want to?
Well, my email is ronsrmgp@aol.com.
Okay.
And I don't have a website. I don't do Snapchat, TikTok. I don't do any of that.
Yeah.
I found that to be a nuisance, not a benefit. But if y'all do it, hey, more power to you. Good luck with it.
And we do it. MySARA.org does it. Ron Moore's contact details are on there. You will see him and you'll see more about him on our site if you just want to go to MySARA.org. I keep forgetting that. We are a 501c6. Anyway, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure.